Hello, good afternoon. Today I'm gonna do, it's a video, but it's mainly a demo from start to finish. I just wanna show how I did my first roast ever. I still have that equipment, it's right here. Actually a popcorn machine. So my intention with this video is not only to show that, I'm gonna be filming non-stop. Let me show the setup. I'm here at home, I'll be using that. That's an Action 3. And I'm going to using that equipment. Back then it used to be called the popper. I think it's the same. Roasting maybe less than that amount. There's 120 grams here. I think that's probably 80 grams capacity. And I explain that later. That's for cooling. But the whole thing is to showcase or demo how I started. And I'm going to film non-stop so we can edit this video kind of nicely. Usually, back then, and probably still, they do not recommend you plug anything between the popcorn machine from electricity point of view, as straight as much as you can to the plug, but in this house, that's a no-no. And the main reason is because you lose current, and if you lose current, there will be less heat and whatever. But this is just a demo, and I know we can properly roast. I've done it already, not today. And so I hope this one works. It's a cool thing actually. And we need to do outside. We need to do it outside because coffee beans, when they're green like this, you can see that they have a little skin, some sort of parchment skin. It's called chaff, coffee chaff, and that blows up. And outside it doesn't matter. It can go in the grass. It's a nice fertilizer. So, and also there's a smoke coming out, and you don't want to be inside your home and the smoke detector goes off. We'll be using basically manual timing with my watch. I could measure the bean temp, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it exactly as I did my first one. And another car coming by. So it's easy to roast that way. When you learn to roast that way, no matter how much automation you have, eventually, like I do now, if something goes wrong, you can revert that because believe it or not, the lessons learned in this little contraption here still applies to roasting today in air roasting, right? There's always drum roasting and air roasting. I'll probably do a better video on those after. I've done both. I have access to both. Drum roasters, for the most part, have more capacity. And there's also like in between, like a mix of drum and air. But I do have an air roaster, a proper air roaster. My partner in Tampa has a drum roaster, and I use that one. I use it, so the end result is about the same. It's very, I mean, it's hard to say, oh, this was roasted on a drum and it's better, or an air roaster, vice versa. No, honestly, no. In my opinion, for the most, maybe some kind of people will, but no. So I'm using my little grill as a platform. And in here, on this side, these are roasting guides from two different companies, actually. Maybe the same company, I don't know. I think it's the same company, yeah. This is the company I bought the equipment for. I bought this little equipment with 4 pounds of green beans and included this shirt for about $34 back in 2020 as COVID started. Pretty sure it was somewhere in between January and summer of 2020. I can't remember the exact moment. In my other video, how I became a roaster, I have snippets, video segments of that being used in the little apartment that we had. So this little chart basically give you an idea what to expect when you're roasting. These are what is called roast levels. Let me see if I can do this, yeah. And these are the level, the industry standards like city, full city, Vienna. That basically means light to medium, medium to medium dark, dark to burn, all right? And this is what you expect at each state, stage, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what you taste, smell, and touch. And this is what it looks like from green, like that, similar to that, you see? And as you progress in the roast, it will give you an idea. And if you look carefully here, it says call the fire department. Why? Because if you're not paying attention, it will catch on fire. Coffee not properly attended is a hazard. So this is that. The other one from the same company, this is a little bit more advanced. This is a calibrated roasting level chart when the coffee is ground. The true color of coffee, for the most part, is when you grind the coffee. And this is how you can also do what you call it, like from the bean side. Again, these are guidelines in terms of temperature, what's gonna happen. And again, those fancy names, burned. Yeah, people like that, and companies do roast like that. When you see something like this, very oily, that's burned. And in my opinion, tastes like crap. But some people like it. As I mentioned before, taste is king. Only yours is what counts. I like to stay in the medium dark to dark. I don't go below medium. That's by design. I like to keep the names light, medium, dark. I'm somewhere in medium dark, somewhere there. I don't care much about these old fancy names. I mean, some people do. I don't care, but I do care about the temperatures, like 400 this, 425, whatever. In my current roasting operation, bean temperature is important. But in here, although I could do it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna just roast by look, smell, and sounds. All right. While roasting, there is at least one stage that is very important. It's called the first crack. It's probably here somewhere. Let me see where. Yeah, right here, first crack. Trying to use this properly. I'll probably digitize this and put it first crack. And the reason that popcorn machine is funny is because coffee, when it becomes properly roast, when it becomes coffee, drinkable coffee from green, is when you hear that pop. You're gonna hear it here. We call it first crack, and that's the very first. It's not the first, but one of the few important markers in the roasting process that you need to pay attention, because based on that sound, when that happens, if you're using time, then that's when you do the development phase, like, okay, how dark I'm gonna get it, and that's when the tasting notes are gonna be happening. From light to dark, the darker you go, the more you lose the origin of the coffee, like whatever the coffee should taste like. The darker you go, you start losing that. The lighter you go, you keep that origin. And believe me, coffee, being a sherry, does have taste levels. And you're gonna see in some bags, taste notes like chocolate and caramel and fruits and whatever. Like, for example, Ethiopian, a very well-known coffee. By the way, you're gonna see the chaff blowing. This is a Colombian. If you were roasting an Ethiopian, man, that bean really releases a lot of chaff. But the reason I mentioned Ethiopian is Ethiopian, the Yirgacheffer region, which is probably what they call the origin of coffee, where everything kind of started. That coffee has a very unique scent or taste. It's like jasmine, the jasmine flower. That's what that tastes like. So the darker you go with Ethiopian, the less of that you will have. Or any coffee, like, it doesn't matter. Like, every coffee has some sort of note. So light keeps the origin closer, darker, that kind of disappears. So big company, big roaster that want to keep the price down, they're gonna buy cheap beans, and they're gonna go really dark. Because if you take a very expensive bean or a cheap bean and you go really dark, they're gonna taste about the same. All right. So you don't want to do that. So me as a roaster, I try to find a sweet spot for whatever I'm trying to sell you. For example, the Colombian is a medium roast. I do that. My house blend is medium dark, and my Italian is dark. I'm just trying to give you a reference. Of course, different tastes. The Colombian is one of the biggest seller, including the Italian blend. Although it's dark, it's not burned like you saw in that shirt. So anyways, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna turn this camera on. Hopefully it's in the right position, yeah. And I'm gonna start that. Oh, before I do, I might need a little tool, so stand by. Sorry about that, I'm back. I forgot this little spoon, it's a wood spoon. No matter how you roast, whether you use that or of course a drum roaster, there's no question about it. Air roasting, or some people can use skillets, iron skillets. There's different little contraptions you can use. One is called the hive. No matter how you roast, the beans need to be moving constantly. They have to move. You cannot say, oh, I'm gonna cook one side first, and then I'm gonna turn them over. That's not how it works. That coffee is gonna taste like crap. The beans needs to move. In drum roasting, the drum is heated mostly with gas to an X amount of temperature, and when you dump the beans, then the temperature kind of drops and it can start going back up. That's called the turning point. But the drum is constantly moving the beans. And what cooked the beans or roast the beans is the actual touching of the drum, made of steel or whatever material, while the burners are heating the drum. Another golf cart, sorry, need to wait. So that's how a drum roasting works. In an air roaster, the one I use for the most part, there's a column of heated air that the beans are jumping into, like all around, jumping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that hot air touching the bean is what roasts the beans. That's the main difference. In this little contraption, you're gonna see that. This is an air roasting type, and the way this works, properly works, you need to put enough beans from here that they are constantly moving. You cannot overflow this and the beans stuck. And the reason I have this, in case they get stuck, I can get them out or get them going. So that's important, bean movement is really important. The other important thing is when you're gonna stop the roast, by time, by smell, by look, however you wanna stop it, by temperature, you need to cool the beans as fast as you can, because that process, the beans are gonna keep roasting. So of course, different ways, different methods. I'm gonna use exactly like what I did when I started. You seen one of these before? So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna dump the bean there, and I have my little trusted air gun. Watch this. And then I'm gonna go like this, and cool. You see how it moves? And cool the beans. And that's how I started, actually. I don't know, 6 years ago, somewhere there. But anyways, let's get going and let's see if we can roast this coffee. If you can leave this on so I can film myself doing this, all right? So basically, let me get this out of the way. We're gonna turn the machine on, popcorn popper. And we're gonna start dumping the beans and making sure the beans are constantly moving, all right? Watch this. Telling you, they don't take much. You see? The first part you might need a little bit because the beans are too dense. But once they start roasting, they're gonna keep moving by themselves. I might do 2 batches because I haven't forgotten how small the batches are. Jesus Christ. See the chaff already blowing off? Isn't that nice? You see how it's moving? I can't even smell it. Like look at all the chaff blowing off already. That's ridiculous. This is what you wanna see. You see that? You wanna see that movement. I got enough bean here probably to do 3 batches. We might do that. It's fast. It doesn't take much. See, now it's moving and the chaff blowing off. And soon you're gonna hear the first crack and how everything kind of changed color. So anyways, while that goes, let me talk about the bags. I also mentioned in one of the previous videos, best way to store the coffee is the bag that comes in. Like, do you see that little here, the little valve? That's a one-way valve. So, and this little Ziploc here, when you do that, double check on the coffee, still moving. Still moving, and chaff blowing everywhere. You see that? I wish you could smell that. It already smells nice. Awesome. It smells like when I did it the first time. So these liter bags, or any bag with a one-way valve, allows the air to go out. So basically, when you use the coffee, reseal that ziploc, squeeze the air out, and that protects the coffee really nice. Don't put it in the fridge. I already mentioned that one. Don't do that. That's really bad. The second best way is the use of these containers. I mentioned that in the video. The brand is called Airscape. You can get it on Amazon. This is the smaller one. I got two sizes. I think they had three sizes. But why this is important? Look at that shit. I'm sorry. Look at that coffee. Already changing color. So the container have this thing. Let me go here so you can hear it better. Hear this better. Sorry. This container had this valve with that thing over there. And this is what happened. And you close that, air is out. That's the best container. The other ones, another company is called Fellows. It's kind of twisting the lid. And of course, don't use the OXO. No, don't use any of that shit. That's a proper container. So I'm gonna interrupt this. You see? Now, because the coffee is less dense, it's gonna keep moving. Look at all the chaff around here. So at least that camera is filming the whole thing, and I'm using this one too. It's fast in a popper like that. It's fast. I can probably do a little bit more coffee and move it more at the beginning, but so it's not a difficult thing to do. It's hot. This stuff gets very hot. It's an actual popcorn machine. That's what it is. But I remember 34 bucks. That machine, 4 pounds of that, and a 30-minute video. I think they still have it in their website. The company is called Sweet Maria's. It's a really nice company. They know a lot about coffee. I like it. Let me see if I can get the thing here. What do you call it? Yeah, Sweet Maria's. That's what you wanna. That's the company. Just like that. You can Google that. Now, since one of the things with this type of device is that it's a one button, like on. Like there's no temperature control. There's no flow control, right? Airflow. So what happens is that once you start learning the ropes on roasting, the temperature control is important, and hopefully the airflow. So back then, what happened was I didn't do it, but because I advanced into other roasters fairly quickly once I knew, all right, I'm gonna do this. So instead of having just the extension cord straight like this, between the popper and the house or wherever you're getting your power from, they put some sort of voltage regulator. So you can actually put less voltage into that little thing or more. And that allows kind of a control, right? This is like a $20 thing. I think I saw it once at Publix. I went to Publix. Oh my God, they have the same thing. It's a popcorn machine. So since, if you go to Sweet Maria's or Berman's, mostly Sweet Maria's. Berman Coffee is also another good one. Since they have developed, can you hear the first crack? Hold on. Hear that? So that first crack already happened. It's my neighbor. So since they have developed similar machines, but more towards coffee, with internal control for those aspects, and they are, I don't know, 80 bucks. You can start really cheap. You don't have to spend much, to be honest. So, yeah, first crack is already happening. I can hear it for sure. I can see that. Again, this, hello, that's my neighbor over there. They're very nice people. And the reason I did this, I mentioned when I say I became a roaster, is because I wanted to lower the cost of coffee. And if I'm closer to the green part and I become the roaster, then I eliminate that step. You can do that if you want to, but believe me, learning and developing your roast, and it was easy, but it was not, it takes time. You need to put a lot of time into this. So that happened, and I had to do it. And it actually works, but once you get going, it takes some time. It takes some time to get to that point. I need to get my glasses off so I can see what the heck is going on color-wise. Yeah, I can see it's roasting. It's gonna be somewhere in the medium to between light and medium. This machine, it's not gonna be that capable of being like, produce a super dark roast. That's gonna take forever. That's not the purpose of this demo. Just to show you what that looks like. And we'll be done soon. I did have like one of those laser temps, and I used that to measure bean temp, and it wasn't perfect, but it was better than zero. I can hear it more and more. I know because of the noise of the motor, you might not hear it. And when I'm done and I cool it down, I want to set it side by side so you see what the green looks like, which is that. I want the same beans when the roast looks like. I can see it right now, for sure. Yeah, I can see the smoke coming out too. It's almost done at whatever I can do with this. I can see a little bit of smoke. I can smell it too. It's an easy thing, smell and, do that. So I'm gonna set up this here so I can properly grab it and cool it down better. I can smell it. It smells nice, and I can see it too. Yeah. I'm gonna run it a little longer. I like kind of medium dark to dark. I don't know how far can I go with this, but definitely we can. Looks like coffee already. Yeah, this is my little setup. That's my truck, POS1. So yeah, best way to store AirScape containers. You can check that on Amazon. Different size. They're kind of pricey, but you don't have to spend money. You have one of these bags with that little valve. Believe me, if you can use 12 ounces of coffee in a month, you got different issues. But if you want to properly store it, and yeah, that's the container. I have like, I don't know, 4 of those. I don't know. I like to have different coffees all the time. So yeah, this coffee is pretty much done. Now you're gonna see what it looks like when I cool it down. Yeah, I might have to release this camera in order to properly do that. So I'm gonna dump the coffee here. I'm gonna start this first. So it's easier for me to do that. So this is how you cool it. I have to be careful. I don't wanna like damage it. So you don't need much. It's a small amount. This is a very old technique. I have enough coffee here probably for maybe 2.5 drinks. But I can roast 6 of these processes and have a week of coffee. I can touch it. Yeah, it's already cool to the touch. That's what you want. know if you can see this properly. Hopefully you can. Just a standard kitchen colander, whatever you call this. It doesn't take much to cool down coffee. Like, it's already cool to the touch, you can see that. If I tried to do that when it was here in this little contraption, that even the machine is very hot. So yeah, look at the difference between roasted coffee and regular coffee, right? As you can see, I don't know how long this video is already, maybe 8 minutes. You don't need to be super cold, but you need to be at least cool enough. So I'm gonna dump some here. That way, I'm gonna put next to it like the green ones, how we started. So this is what it looks like. Based on the look of that coffee, I can tell you that it's a more medium light than anything. This is a bean that I don't need and I don't care for. So just see now, side by side, both coffees and what they look. And that one came out of that popcorn machine over there. That's roasted, that's green. And that's how you roast Colombian coffee, all right? This is entertaining, something that probably most of you haven't seen. It's important to remember that, let me turn this off for now, that there are many ways. There's a guy in the villages that is in one of these villages clubs that do roasting. It's a roasting club, and he promotes a coffee roaster that I used to have sold it to a friend of mine here in the villages. It's called the Fresh Roast. That's the name of the company. The roaster model is SR. I had a 700 first. I had two of those. And my latest one, I believe, was an 800, and there's a 500 SR, and that's basically the capacity. The 500 is green, 8 ounces maybe, where the 800 is 9 to 10 ounces green. And you can do a whole roast in those, I don't know, 20 minutes. That includes the startup, the roasting, and the cooling part at the most. And with those, you can roast, I don't know, at least 2 pounds of coffee in an hour. And with 2 pounds of coffee, at least a guy like me, that's a week and a half. Very easy. But there's a club in the village that do that. So here you have it. Here you have the Colombian thing. Let me put it in a better lighting situation so it looks better. Let me see. Yeah. I mean, maybe again, the stainless steel is a better comparison. So that's how I started my roasting journey. And I was willing to risk $34 during COVID. So that's a low cost risk. And I cannot believe where I am right now after I started with that thing. It comes with this little cover. Where did I put that cover? I don't know. Like the popcorn cover. And I used to do that to retain more heat. I mean, it's a bunch of techniques that you start learning, right? Hey, Jim. And my neighbor, cool guy, 80 plus years old and still going around like nothing. Amazing. So that's roasting. It doesn't matter if you roast, I don't know, what was that, 60 grams or 1,000 pounds. The roasting curve is pretty much the same. It's about the same time. Roasting is roasting. The difference is those big roasters versus the little ones is just capacity. But you have to keep in mind that roasting curve, that roasting technique. Believe me when I'm telling you, what I learned here 6 years ago, to this day I apply. It's amazing. I remember my roaster is very automated in some aspect. It has a computer, I can see the curve, that's basically a visual reference for me to know where I'm going. And I remember one day the computer, something went wrong, so the computer failed, but the roaster is still going. But because I knew how to roast that way or this way, I was able to immediately keep going in manual mode because in my mind I knew exactly what needed to be done and I never lost the roast. So that's what I believe is always good to learn, the basics. Very mechanical, very manual. So when you become automated and something fails, it will fail, you know what to do or how to react, or at least do not burn the house down or the place down. Um, Something that I learned also in aviation. I learned aviation with a very, very basic planes in the 80s, late 80s, yeah, mid 80s, early 90s, that's what I learned how to fly. And it's called six-pack dials, right? Mechanical dials. And I remember I did that, and then when I flew like more automated planes like the Cirrus SR-22 with touchscreens, that's a big leap. The same thing with roadster, but because I knew how to fly in those early gauges, when I jumped into the Cirrus, it was a quick. I went with a demo pilot. I knew how to fly the plane, even though I had no idea what was going on in front of me with the touchscreen. It was very different. But the flying part, once you know how to do it, it's flying. It's just an airplane. Same with roasting. I'm gonna do a more detailed video on roast levels to kind of explain better when you choose a package, when you choose a coffee, anywhere you go. Some people go to Starbucks and buy the blonde or what Pikes, or just don't get caught up in names. Find what the roast level is. That's gonna tell you, okay, where this is gonna go. Lighter roasts are gonna be, for the most part, more acidic than darker roasts. And darker roasts, in contrast, depending how they roast, it's gonna be more towards the bitter part. But bitter is not always bad, as long as it's under control. And then the medium darks in between, you balance all that. That's my perspective when I roast. Anyways, I hope you like it. It's kind of hot day, but wind is blowing. I'm gonna put this tonight. I didn't do one last week. I apologize for that, but I got a bunch of stuff going on, and I don't like to do stuff bad. I know this one, even though probably edit a little bit, doesn't need much, and at the same time, you're able to see. You saw this live while I was talking to you. Anyways, this is what popcorn roasting is all about with the Nostalgia popcorn roaster. I'm pretty sure you can buy this popcorn roaster somewhere. Let me see if I can get that lid. It's somewhere here. Just to show you what it looks like. And this is mainly for the popcorn part, to be honest, because this is the lid. And it has a little cover here that I kind of melted it, kind of. But the reason this lid was, that is why it become a popcorn machine, because that's how the popcorn exits into a bowl, right? I use it to retain more heat and better develop the roast, but to be honest, it didn't matter. Anyway, hope you like it, and then I'll see you in the next one. From POS1 headquarters, bye-bye.